Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into adding and subtracting positive and negative decimals, I need someone that's very knowledgeable on this topic to please answer in the comments, right? What is the hype with Labubus, right? I have no joke been hearing students talking about buying them or sharing them with their friends. I just don't get it. Now, I'm not naive to collecting or anything. You can see all the video games behind me. I have some Bear Brick little statues on the shelf below right here. So I'm not naive to it. I just don't get it. I mean, are they keychains? Why are there some that are a couple $100, right? Somebody let me know in the comments, but enough ranting. Let's get into adding and subtracting positive and negative decimals. Now, if you haven't seen my adding and subtracting integers videos, I have a certain rule that I utilize for addition problems and another rule for subtraction problems. And you're going to notice that I have those written below the title of adding and subtracting decimals. So if you haven't seen those videos, I'm going to link them in the description for you, but I'm also going to re-mention them in this video as well, especially if you're clicking on this video for the first time and haven't seen the other two videos. So let's go ahead and jump into number one, and I'll talk about the rules as we progress. Okay, so for the first one, I have -8 and 6/10 minus a -20 and 41/100. Now, the very first thing I tell my students to do is take a look at how many numbers are behind each decimal point. I want to make sure that each of our decimals goes to the same place value. Well, the 8.6 only has one number behind it, and the 20.41 has two. So I want to fix that so they both have two numbers behind the decimal point. And I do that by simply just adding a 0 behind the 6, because it's not going to change the value of the decimal at all if we add a 0. So I'm just going to rewrite it so they go both to the hundredths place. So we have -8 and 60 hundredths minus, and then parentheses, we have -20 and 41 hundredths. So I always tell them to check that right off the bat. That way they don't screw up addition and subtraction a little bit later on. Then after that, I always make sure that we focus on the operation. And this time around, we're subtracting these decimals. So this is where that first rule comes into play, and it asks you, what is the Spanish word for crazy? It's just a certain way to remember what we do for subtracting, whether it's integers, mixed numbers, or decimals. And the Spanish word for crazy is loco, but I always tell them that this Spanish speaker just doesn't know how to spell properly, so we drop the first O and we look at LCO. Loco is just a lot easier to remember, and it stands for leave the first one alone, change subtraction to addition, and take the opposite of your second number. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to leave 8.60 the way it is. We're going to change subtraction to addition, and -20.41, it's going to turn to its opposite, which is now positive 20.41. And that is this rule for subtracting only. What is the Spanish word for crazy? Loco. And then again, they just can't spell. So that rule only applies to subtraction. And now that we're looking at an addition problem, this is where this other rule comes into play. It actually goes to the tune of row, row, row your boat. I'm not going to sing it again. I did sing it in the adding integers video. But it says same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger number, then you'll be exact. So we're going to use this rule whenever we're working with an addition problem. So we have different signs here. 20.41 is positive, 8.60 is negative. So we're going to follow different signs subtracting. So we're going to take the larger one and write that first. So we have 20 and 41 hundredths minus, make sure you line up your decimal points, line up your place values. This is where a lot of students make mistakes. You want to make sure everything is lined up perfectly. We'll draw our equal sign here. Now, I always tell my students that you should be able to draw vertical lines between each place value, right? And if you can't, that means you're writing your numbers way too close together. You should be able to separate each place value with no problem at all, right? So I'm just going to get rid of those lines for now. Now we can go ahead and subtract these. I'm going to drop my decimal point down into my final answer so I don't accidentally put it in the wrong spot. But we have 1 minus 0 is 1. 4 minus 6 you can't do. 0 minus 8 you can't do, so let's borrow. That becomes a 1. This is now a 10. Again, we're going to have to borrow. This becomes a 9. This is now 14. 14 minus 6 is 8. That decimal point stays exactly where it is for the final answer. 9 minus 8 is 1, and 1 minus nothing is 1. So our final answer is 11 and 81 hundredths. Now, the second part of this rule says keep the sign of the bigger number, then you'll be exact. So we want to make sure, well, is our final answer going to be a positive 11.81 or a negative? Well, 20 and 41 hundredths was positive, and that's the bigger number out of the two. So our final answer is going to be positive as well. So that's it for the first one. And now we're going to jump right over to number 2. We have negative 37 minus 13 and 93 hundredths. And you're going to notice that 37 isn't even a decimal. So to make this into a decimal, we're just going to put a decimal point behind the 7, and we're going to add 2 zeros because that's not going to change the value of it at all. So let's go ahead and rewrite that. We have negative 37.00 minus 13 and 93 hundredths. And then we want to take a look at our rules here. We'll get rid of that arrow for now. Which rule are we going to utilize? Well, it's a subtraction problem again. So is it the Spanish word for crazy, or is it going to be the same signs add and keep song? Well, it's subtraction again, so we want to utilize loco, or leave change opposite. So we're going to leave negative 37 the way it is, so leave this alone. We're going to change subtraction to addition, and we're going to turn 13 and 93 hundredths to its opposite, and now it's going to be negative 13 and 93 hundredths. Now that we've used our Spanish word for crazy, or loco, because now it's not a subtraction problem anymore, we now want to utilize our song. So let's analyze this. Do they have same signs? So we're going to add them together and keep the sign that they share, or do they have different signs where we have to subtract? Well, this time around they have same signs. They're both negative, so we're simply going to add them together. And again, I'm going to write my larger one first. In this case, it's 37. I'm just going to write it down here just because I'm going to run out of space. So we have 37.00. We're going to add, again, make sure you line up your decimal points. I always line those up first. We have a 3, a 1, a 9, and a 3. We're going to draw our equal bar here, drop our decimal point down into our final answer. 0 plus 3 is 3. 0 plus 9 is 9. Decimal point's already there for us. 7 plus 3 is 10. Carry your 1, and you end up getting 50 and 93 hundredths for number 2. Now again, it says same signs add and keep, which means keep the sign that they had in common. So we want to make sure that our final answer is negative 53 and 93 hundredths. Right, now let's go ahead and take a look at the third one. This one just looks like it's an addition problem, right? So we don't have to use loco because it's not a subtraction problem. So we just want to use our song. Same signs add and keep, different signs subtract, right? Well, these are same signs again. We simply just need to add them. However, I want to make sure that I throw in a 0 behind the 3 because the one has 3 numbers behind the decimal point and the other one has 2. So let's go ahead and rewrite that real quick. So we have 16 and 430 thousandths plus 52 and 104 thousandths. And then just because of my webcam, I don't think I'm going to have enough room. I'm just going to write it where my previous one was. So we're going to write 52 and 104 thousandths first, plus line up your decimal points. So we have 16,430. Drop your decimal point down in your final answer. 4 plus 0 is 4. 0 plus 3 is 3. 1 plus 4 is 5. Decimal point's already there for us. 2 plus 6 is 8. And 5 plus 1 is 6. So final answer is 68 and 534 thousandths. Same signs, they're both positive, so we want to keep our final answer positive as well. So that is going to be it for our third one. And now let's go ahead and jump down to number 4. So let's go ahead and add a 0 right off the bat. That way there's 2 numbers behind each decimal point. So we have 14 and 90 hundredths plus negative 63 and 18 hundredths. Now it's an addition problem, so we don't want to use loco. Again, that's only for subtraction. So same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. These are different signs. One's positive and one's negative. So let's go ahead and subtract these. So I'm going to write the 63 first. So we have 63 and 18 hundredths minus, line up your decimal points, 14 and 90 hundredths. Drop your decimal point down to your final answer. 8 minus 0 is 8. 1 minus 9 you can't do, so let's borrow. That becomes a 2. This is an 11. 11 minus 9 is 2. Decimal point's already there for us. 2 minus 4 you can't do, so let's borrow again. Now it's a 12. 12 minus 4 is 8. 5 minus 1 is 4. And our final answer is 48 and 28 hundredths. But keep in mind that you have to keep the sign of the bigger number. Well, 63 is a bigger number, but it was negative. So we want to make sure that our final answer is also negative. So it's actually negative 48 and 28 hundredths. And then we're on to our very last one. So I notice once again we have a decimal, and we also have one that's not even a decimal at all, right? So we want to make sure that we go ahead and add 3 zeros behind the decimal point. So I'm just going to tack it on to the very end here. So 0.000. And notice it's a subtraction problem. Now you probably recognize that you can subtract these right away, which you can. I'm still going to use the rule anyways, just so you can kind of burn into your brain, right? But this is leave change opposite. So I'm going to leave 44 and 815 thousandths alone. So 44 and 815 thousandths. Change subtraction to addition, and this turns to its opposite, which is now negative 19. I see addition now, so now we want to use our song. So same signs add and keep, different signs subtract, so they're different signs, so we can go ahead and subtract these. So we have 44 and 815 thousandths minus, line up your decimal point. We have 19 with 3 zeros. And now let's drop our decimal point down into our final answer and go ahead and subtract these. So 5 minus 0 is 5, 1 minus 0 is 1, 8 minus 0 is 8. 4 minus 9 you can't do, so let's borrow. This becomes a 14. 14 minus 9 is 5. 3 minus 1 is 2. And then we want to keep the sign of the bigger number. Well, 44 is bigger and positive, so my final answer is going to be 25 and 815 thousandths. And that's the first 5 questions that I have. I do have 5 questions I want you to try your own in the practice session, so let's go ahead and show you the next 5. And now it's the moment you've all been waiting for, the practice session. I want you to try these 5 questions out on a sheet of paper, solve them all completely and get your answers, and then when you think you have them all correct, play a video and see how you did. Now, I'm assuming at this point you have tried out all 5 questions and you're ready to go over the answers. However, before that, if you watch one of my previous videos, I showed you an incentive that my students are going to win in the monthly raffle at the end of the month. And if you haven't seen that yet, this is what it is. So it comes in this case here, right? And if you're my student, this is kind of a sneak peek for you, right? But it is a Nintendo Switch Lite. Right? If you don't know anything about me, I do resell a decent amount of video games just to pay off some student loan debt. So sometimes I kind of get things relatively cheap. So this was one of the things I ended up getting. It's in very, very nice shape. So they're going to get this. They're going to end up getting this Mario case as well. And then if you saw the previous video, the only game that I had for them at the time was Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, which is like a $30, $35 game. So they got to pick just this if they win. Okay, but now I have a few different choices for them as well. So they could take Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, Lego Harry Potter collection, just because not everybody's into Marvel. And then they also have the choice of one of these 2 Mario games, Mario Rabbids plus Kingdom Battle, or Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. So now they have 4 different options to pick from. So they're gonna get that, they're gonna get the Mario case, one of the games, and then also you didn't see a charger in that video, so now they have a charger as well. So very, very nice gift for them to win at the end of the month. All they have to do is be passing my classes. You know, they're not a behavior problem or anything like that, and they're definitely eligible to win the Nintendo Switch Lite. So if you're my student, don't tell anybody, right? But this is also a test to see if you're watching the videos as well. Right, now let's go ahead and go over the practice problem. So hopefully you go 5 for 5. Let's go ahead and jump right into the first one. I see addition. So right away, I know we're utilizing our song, same signs add and keep, but I notice I want to add a 0 behind the 7. So we have negative 13 and 70 hundredths plus parentheses negative 19 and 49 hundredths. So same signs add and keep, they're both negative, which means they're the same sign, so we can go ahead and add these. Start with our bigger number, so we have 19 and 49 hundredths. Plus, line up your decimal point, 13 and 70 hundredths. Drop your decimal point down in your final answer. 9 plus 0 is 9. 4 plus 7 is 11, carrier 1. 9 plus 3 plus 1 is 13, carrier 1. And you end up getting 33 and 19 hundredths. However, hopefully you noticed that you have to keep the sign that they shared, so it should be a negative 33 and 1900. So hopefully you're 1 for 1 and didn't miss that negative sign and didn't go 1 for 1. Now let's go ahead and take a look at number 2. I noticed that 76 isn't even a decimal, so we're going to start there and make it into a decimal. So it's negative 76.0 minus 16.5. It's subtraction, so I want to use leave change opposite or loco. So we're going to leave the first one alone. We're going to change subtraction to addition, and 16.5 is going to turn to its opposite, and now it's negative. Okay, now we have an addition problem. We're utilizing our song. It looks like we're utilizing the first half again, same signs, add and keep. So I'm going to add it down here. We're going to write the bigger number first, so 76.0 plus, line up our decimal points. We have 16.5. Drop your decimal point down in your final answer. 0 plus 5 is 5. 6 plus 6 is 12. Carrier 1. 1 plus 7 plus 1 gives us 92 and 5/10. And then once again, keep the sign that they shared, and it's going to be negative 92 and 5/10. Now let's jump over to number 3. I see that we have to add a 0. I'm just going to tack it on behind the 5. That way they both go to the thousands place now. I see subtraction. We're going to utilize loco, so leave change opposite. So we leave the first one alone, change subtraction to addition, and 76 and 850 thousandths turns to the opposite, so now it's negative. And now we want to utilize our song here. So same signs add and keep. It looks like we're using different signs subtract now. So let's go ahead and write our larger one first. So we have 76 and 850 thousandths minus, line up your decimal points, 34 and 193 thousandths. Drop your decimal point down, and now we can subtract. 0 minus 3 we can't do, so let's borrow. Now it's 10 minus 3, which is 7. 4 minus 9 you can't do, so borrow again. This becomes 14. 14 minus 9 is 5. 7 minus 1 is 6. 6 minus 4 is 2. And 7 minus 3 gives us 4. So our final answer is 42 and 657 thousandths. But we want to make sure that we keep the sign of the bigger number. Well, 76 was bigger and negative, so our final answer has to be negative as well. So hopefully you're 3 for 3 right now, and now let's go ahead and make our way to number 4. We're going to add 2 zeros and also add a decimal point behind 56. So we have 56.00 minus negative 10.55. I see subtraction, so let's go ahead and utilize leave change opposite or loco. So leave this alone, change subtraction to addition, and negative 10.55 is going to turn to its opposite, so now it's positive. And now we want to utilize our song. So it looks like it's going to be same signs, add and keep. So let's write our bigger one first. So 56.00 plus 10.55. Drop your decimal point down in your final answer. 0 plus 5 is 5. 0 plus 5 is 5. 6 plus 0 is 6. 5 plus 1 is 6. And again, same signs, add and keep. They're both positive, so we want to keep our final answer positive of 66 and 55 hundredths for number 4. And now we are on to our very last one. So it looks like it's just going to be a simple addition problem. We do want to add in 2 zeros here. And we simply can just add these same signs, add and keep. So let's write our larger one first. So 6 and 157 thousandths plus, line up your decimal points, 2.200. Drop your decimal point down. 7 plus 0 is 7. 5 plus 0 is 5. 1 plus 2 is 3. Decimal point's already there. 6 plus 2 is 8. And same signs add and keep, so we keep it positive. And that is it for our 5 practice problems for today. So hope you went 5 for 5 in the practice session. If you did, very, very nice job. Let me know in the comments. I hope this video helped you out in adding and subtracting positive and negative decimals. If it did, please leave a like on the video. Comment any other topics that you want to see, and we'll see you in the next video with some more mathematics. Remember to subscribe, turn on the bell for notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch.